J.K. Rowling is at it again. Who am I kidding? She never stopped. Let's be clear, she never stopped. But her recent rhetoric has gotten more radicalized. She is saying now that she will be a martyr for all the transphobes and the bigots out there. She will go on the front lines and she will take the hit for everybody. And she does this from the comfort of her very rich home where she doesn't have to worry about ever being held accountable for any of this. It's just a big virtue signal. Let's take a look at this article here. It says, J.K. Rowling said she'd happily go to prison for misgendering a trans person. And this should come as no surprise. I mean, anybody that's been following J.K. for a while now and listening to her fans, the ones that are basically brainwashed at this point, defend her, saying that she's not a transphobe, she's not a bigot. I mean, come on, give me a break. It says, transphobic millionaire author J.K. Rowling says she'll happily spend 2 years in prison for deliberately misgendering a trans person. Basically just giving people no decency, no respect. In order to be polite to a trans person, you have to be a trans person. That's not what people are saying. You don't have to necessarily agree with something that someone does or how they live their lives or anything to just give them basic human respect. And what these people are arguing for is, at the bare bones of it, the most simple, most outrageous stuff they can come up with. They're going to push that as hard as they can. Something as simple as misgendering, because there are bigger issues at play when it comes to queer people, when it comes to trans people. But they don't want to talk about the nuance. They don't want to talk about that. They want to just stick to the easy stuff, the stuff that they can get people outraged for, this online culture war that they're trying to stoke. It has to get more and more radical because they're losing. And the radicalization, we're seeing it in other pockets. Here on YouTube, they're channels that typically try to toe the line of like this illusion that it's about fandoms, that it's about something else, but it always goes back to something political with these people. And so they're getting more and more radicalized because they're losing and they're backed in a corner. And so she's like, I will be a martyr. She says this is in reference to reports that the UK's Labour Party is considering increasing sentencing guidelines for violence and hate speech against trans people. Similar hate speech sentencing in the UK can punish offenders with up to 2 years in prison, community service, probation, fines, or some combination of all four. And she says here, I'll happily do 2 years if the alternative is compelled speech and forced denial of reality and importance of sex. Bring on the court case, I'd say. It'd be more fun than I've ever had on a red carpet. But see, that's the privilege. That's the privilege of a heterosexual person who is cisgender when it comes to issues like this. They have the ability to completely detach from the actual core of what is happening. For her, it is fun. For trans people, it is their lives. And that's the part that she doesn't understand. Something as simple as language can be the buffer between a violent act and someone treating another human being with respect. What I mean by that is it starts with something as simple as misgendering. And then that particular thing can snowball into actual violence. There's been a history of that. There's been reports on that. It is shown that a lot of the funneling and the pipeline work that goes from someone simply not liking trans people to actually being violent against trans people start with something as simple as misgendering. These people don't wake up the next morning and go, I'm going to go out and commit a crime against a trans person without a history of being transphobic to begin with. It just doesn't happen. It's not reality. We're talking about denial of reality. That is the reality of it. The importance of sex. I remember years ago that people said that sexuality isn't important, that it's not an important factor. And now all of a sudden it is. And that is coming from the majority of people coming after a minority group. So it's only important once the majority decides it's important, and then it matters. Before that, it did not. I can't tell you how many times I made videos on here where people are like, all you do is talk about your sexuality. Sexuality isn't important. Just be a person, right? Well, is it or isn't it? Is it important or is it not important? Here she's saying that it is. So when did that shift happen? Did it happen once people wanted equality? Once they wanted to sit at the same table? Is that when it became important? Before that, it wasn't important because you could just sweep it under the rug and pretend like all of us queer people don't exist. It says here in a follow-up tweet musing on what job she could have in prison, she wrote, hoping for the library, obviously, but I think I could do okay in the kitchens. Laundry might be a problem. I have a tendency to shrink stuff, turn it pink accidentally. Guessing that won't be a major issue if it's mostly scrubs and sheets, though. So she's not taking this seriously at all. And the reason why, and this is the truth behind it, is it's a virtue signal because she has the privilege of never having to worry about ever spending a day in jail over this. I will be very shocked. Well, first of all, I'll be shocked if she ever was out in public and said anything where anyone would do anything about it. But I don't think she would ever be in that position. So for me, it's not even about her being out and about and saying things. I don't think that would ever happen. I don't think there's ever any chance of that happening. And even if it did, I don't think she would ever spend a day in jail. And for her, this is a really interesting thing because she's already put it out there that she would gladly go to jail. So she's covered her bases. She is a person of privilege. She's got money and she is not a queer person, meaning that she will probably never suffer any consequences for being rude or bigoted. Just maybe social consequences. I don't think legally she would ever suffer anything. I honestly don't think there's ever any chance of her spending any time in prison for doing this stuff. Again, but if it does happen, she's going to, be a martyr for the community. This is the insidious nature of how a privileged person can continue to oppress people in marginalized communities. You don't have a dog in the fight. It's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. You think you're standing for something. You think you're doing something important. You're not. You're just being a bigot. You're just being transphobic. And it really sucks because I know so many people that love Harry Potter. I know so many people in my life that love Harry Potter. And to know that the creator of Harry Potter is such a hard-headed, backwards ass person is heartbreaking. This, to me, reeks of privilege from the top end. J.K. Rowling is in no world under any concern or should be concerned about going to prison over misgendering people. It's all a virtue signal. Hey Bears, Eric here. If you're enjoying my content, please consider hitting subscribe to support the channel, give a like, and leave a comment down below. Also, if you'd like to support the channel in another way, there are several options. You can become a member by hitting the join button and selecting a tier that works for you. You can leave a super chat during a live stream, or you can leave a super thanks in the comments down below. Thank you once again for supporting the channel, and I hope to see you again. Take care.